my loves. Welcome back. I have had a bit of a stressful day, and I was thinking of what I could do to relax and kind of recenter myself. And I was thinking about reading something, and I thought it would be nice to read something that was cozy and comfortable and had some fond memories to go with it. And so I went over and looked at my bookshelf, and I found this old copy of Winnie-the-Pooh. This one is my old copy from childhood. It's a little worn and has some scratches and dents and spots on it after all these years. But even as a kid, I kept my books in pretty good shape. I always tried not to mess them up, but I did often fall asleep with a lot of books in my bed. I would wake up hugging them like stuffed animals, so they did get a little banged up sometimes. This one's very cute. It has 1, 2, 3. 3 little bumblebees. 3 little honeybees, I'm sure, on the cover. And this lovely binding on the sides. Sorry if you can hear my tummy rumbling. It's late at night. With this very pretty fabric binding on the sides. And this copy of Winnie-the-Pooh has the map of the 100-acre woods in it, spelled as written by Christopher Robin and his friends. 100-acre wood, 100 A-K-E-R, wood. Eeyore's gloomy place, rather boggy and sad. Drawn by me, and Mr. Shepherd helped, it says at the bottom. It also has the Pooh trap for heffalumps. Got Piglet's house over here. Over here is where the Wazzle wasn't. Got big stones and rocks, Kanga's house. And one of my favorite details is that it has a little compass rose in the corner, but instead of N-E-S-W for northeast, southwest, it has P-O-O-H for Pooh. It's a very sweet book. This one, let me see, where's the date on this? Here we go. This one was originally written, copyright 1926, copyright renewed in 1954, and this one is from a printing, I believe, from 1988. So I think we'll just read a chapter or two together, just to get us cozy and settled in for bedtime. I think it'll be nice to recenter ourselves and get comfy for the night. So this will be a soft-spoken reading, going through the book. I have a cup of tea with me, a nice watermelon mint that is soothing me for the evening. And I think that we'll have a nice time, so it'll just be some soft-spoken speaking for the rest of the video. I'm sure some incidental mouth sounds, perhaps some occasional sips of tea. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, as it were, settle in and let's get started with the story. First, to her. Hand in hand we come, Christopher Robin and I, to lay this book in your lap. Say you're surprised. Say you like it. Say it's just what you wanted. Because it's yours. Because we love you. Alright. I'm going to skip the introduction. I hope you don't mind. I would always rather hear the book itself, rather than about the book. Sometimes I'll read the introduction at the end, but I usually like to start with Chapter 1, in which we are introduced to Winnie-the-Pooh and some bees, and the stories begin. I've got this illustration to start. Christopher Robin dragging Pooh Bear down the stairs. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now, bump, bump, bump on the back of his head behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way. If only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom, ready to be introduced to you. Winnie-the-Pooh. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you were going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie. I don't. But you said, he's Winnie-the-Pooh. Don't you know what "there" means? Yes, now I do, I said quickly. And I hope you do too, because it is all the explanation you are going to get. Sometimes Winnie-the-Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs, and sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening... What about a story? Said Christopher Robin. What about a story? I said. Could you very sweetly tell Winnie-the-Pooh one? I suppose I could, I said. What sort of stories does he like? About himself, because he's that sort of bear. Oh, I see. So, could you, very sweetly? I'll try, I said. So I tried. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie-the-Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. What does the under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and lived under it. Winnie-the-Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, said a growly voice. Then I will go on, said I. One day, when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest, and in the middle of this place was a large oak tree, and from the top of the tree there came a loud buzzing noise. Winnie-the-Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. Oh, I flipped the page without even showing you the picture. It's criminal. Here's the picture of him under the name of Sanders, in front of his little fire pit. Now, on this page, we have Winnie-the-Pooh looking up at all of the honeybees. And on the next page, the tree with the honeycomb. First of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without its meaning something. If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise, and the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. Then he thought another long time and said, and the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey. And then he got up and said, and the only reason for making honey is so as I can eat it. So he began to climb the tree. He climbed, and he climbed, and he climbed. And as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does. And then he climbed a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further. By that time he had thought of another song. It's a very funny thought that if
bears were bees, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs.
He was getting rather tired by this time, so that is why he sang a complaining song. He was very nearly there now, and if he just stood on that branch, crack, and we see Pooh tumbling out of the tree. "Oh, help," said Pooh as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. "If only I hadn't," he said as he bounced 20 feet to the next branch. "You see, what I meant to do," he explained as he turned head over heels and crashed onto another branch 30 feet below. "What I meant to do, of course it was rather," he admitted as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. "It all comes, I suppose," he decided, as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun round 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. "It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help." And there is Winnie-the-Pooh, crawling out of the gorse bush, all covered in prickles, that poor bear. He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. "Was that me?" said Christopher Robin in an awed voice, hardly daring to believe it. "That was you." Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. And I need a sip of tea. Much better. Let me show you the pictures of Winnie-the-Pooh going to meet his friend Christopher Robin in the nice big tree across the fields. So, Winnie-the-Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. "Good morning, Christopher Robin," he said. "Good morning, Winnie-the-Pooh," said you. "I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you." "A balloon?" "Yes. I just said to myself coming along, I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said it to myself, thinking of balloons and wondering." "What do you want a balloon for?" you said. Winnie-the-Pooh looked round to see that nobody was listening, put a paw to his mouth, and said in a deep whisper, "Honey." "But you don't get honey with balloons." "I do," said Pooh. "Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had balloons at the party. You had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had a big blue one, and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party at all, and so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you." "Which one would you like?" you asked Pooh. He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. "It's like this," he said. "When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is to not let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you are only part of the tree and not notice you. And if you have a blue balloon, they might think you are only part of the sky and not notice you. And the question is, which is most likely?" "Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon?" you asked. "They might or they might not," said Winnie-the-Pooh. "You can never tell with bees." He thought for a moment and said, I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them." And then you can see Christopher Robin blowing up his big, big balloons, and Winnie-the-Pooh rolling himself in mud to look like a little dark rain cloud. Then you had better have the blue balloon, you said, and so it was decided. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon, and you took your gun with you just in case, as you always did, and Winnie-the-Pooh went to a very muddy place he knew of, and rolled until he was black all over. And then, when the balloon was blown up as big, you and Pooh were both holding onto the string. You let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. And you can see Winnie-the-Pooh trudging along with his little muddy footprints. "Hooray!" you shouted.
"Isn't it fine?" shouted Winnie-the-Pooh down to you. "What do I look like?"
"You look like a bear holding onto a balloon," you said.
"Not," said Pooh anxiously. "Not like a small black cloud in a blue sky?"
"Not very much."
"Ah, well, perhaps from up here it looks different. And, as I say, you can never tell with bees."
There was no wind to blow him nearer to the tree, so there he stayed. He could see the honey, he could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. After a little while, he called down to you.
"Christopher Robin," he said in a loud whisper.
"Hello."
"I think the bees suspect something."
"What sort of thing?"
"I don't know, but something tells me they're suspicious."
"Perhaps they think that you're after their honey?"
"It may be that. You can never tell with bees."
There was another little silence, and then he called down to you again. You can see him floating among the bees, up in the sky.
"Christopher Robin."
"Yes?"
"Have you an umbrella in your house?"
"I think so."
"I wish you would bring it out here, and walk up and down with it, and look up at me every now and then and say, 'Tut, tut, it looks like rain.' I think, if you did that, it would help the deception we are practicing on these bees."
Well, you laughed to yourself. Silly old bear. But you didn't say it aloud, because you were so fond of him, and you went home for your umbrella.
"Oh, there you are," called down Winnie-the-Pooh as soon as you got back to the tree. "I was beginning to get anxious. I have discovered that the bees are now definitely suspicious."
"Shall I put my umbrella up?" you said.
"Yes, but wait a moment. We must be practical. The important bee to deceive is the queen bee. Can you see which is the queen bee from down there?"
"No."
"A pity. Well now, if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, 'Tut, tut, it looks like rain,' I shall do what I can by singing a little cloud song, such as a cloud might sing. Go!"
So while you walked up and down and wondered if it would rain, Winnie-the-Pooh sang this song.
"How sweet to be a cloud, floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud, floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud."
You can see Christopher Robin walking and tut-tut-tutting, saying it looks like rain. And on the other page, Winnie-the-Pooh floating by his balloon, singing to all the bees. The bees were still buzzing, as suspiciously as ever. Some of them indeed left their nest and flew all around the cloud as it began the second verse of the song. And one bee,
sat down on the nose of the cloud for a moment, and then got up again.
Christopher, ow, Robin, called out the cloud.
Yes.
I have just been thinking, and have come to a very important decision. These are the wrong sort of bees.
Are they?
Quite the wrong sort. So I would think they would make the wrong sort of honey, shouldn't you?
Would they?
Yes. So I think I shall come down.
How? Asked you.
Winnie-the-Pooh hadn't thought about this. If he let go of the string, he would fall. Bump! And he didn't like the sound of that. So he thought for a long time, and then he said, Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got your gun?
Of course I have, you said. But if I do that, it will spoil the balloon, you said.
But if you don't, said Pooh, I shall have to let go, and that would spoil me.
When you put it like this, you saw how it was, and you aimed very carefully at the balloon, and fired.
Ow, said Pooh.
Did I miss? You asked.
You didn't exactly miss, said Pooh, but you missed the balloon.
I'm so sorry, you said, and you fired again, and this time you hit the balloon, and the air came slowly out, and Winnie-the-Pooh floated down to the ground. Now I'm going to show you the pictures. But on this page, there are, I fear, some pencil doodles on it, some scribbles from a young reader once upon a time. You'll have to forgive them. I'm sure it wasn't me. Definitely not. I would never. Maybe. So we have one little bee all on their lonesome. A little string of bees over here. And then down at the bottom, we have Christopher Robin after shooting the balloon with his little cork gun, and little Winnie-the-Pooh where he's fallen in front of the popped balloon, still painted all muddy like a little storm cloud. But his arms were so stiff from holding onto the string of the balloon at all that time that they stayed up straight in the air for more than a week, and whenever a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off. And I think, but I am not sure, that is why he was always called Pooh. Another sip of tea. Is that the end of the story? Asked Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one. There are others. About Pooh and me. And Piglet and Rabbit and all of you. Don't you remember? I do remember. And then when I try to remember, I forget. That day when Pooh and Piglet tried to catch the heffalump, they didn't catch it, did they? No. Pooh couldn't, because he hasn't any brain. Did I catch it? Well, that comes into the story. Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember, he said. Only Pooh doesn't very well, so that's why he likes having it told him again, because then it's a real story, and not just a remembering. That's just how I feel, I said. Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh, picked his bear up by the leg, and walked off to the door, trailing Pooh behind him. At the door he turned and said, Coming to see me have my bath? I might, I said. I didn't hurt him when I shot him, did I? Not a bit. He nodded and went out, and in a moment I heard Winnie-the-Pooh bump, 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 going up the stairs behind him. And here you can see Christopher Robin taking his bath, steaming hot, with little Winnie-the-Pooh waiting for him on the edge of the bathtub. And that is the end of chapter 1.
to read the rest of the book, let me know. I would happily read more. It's a very sweet book. I very much enjoy the story within a story aspect, and listening to Christopher Robin hear his own story. I kind of forgot that comes into the books, and I think it makes it very sweet. Like, the animated Winnie-the-Pooh movies and stuff were very nice, but there's something about the charm of the original book that gets to me every time. And I was also just thinking, I'm drinking out of my Gudetama egg mug, which I do love, but another one of my favorite mugs that I use all the time has Winnie-the-Pooh on it. And I feel like I missed an opportunity by not using that mug today. But if I read chapter 2, I will have to make an effort to use the right mug, the matching mug, the Winnie-the-Pooh mug next time. But I think that's enough for tonight. I hope you are cozy. I hope you are feeling ready to drift off for a lovely night's sleep or a relaxing day wherever you are in your own day. I'm gonna go get ready for bed myself. Go get cozy, go get comfy, under some warm blankets, and have a lovely night. I hope you'll do the same. Thank you so much for joining me.